So can we talk about why it's really cool, maybe even important, to teach kids to breathe? I put this picture up earlier because it's Throwback Thursday. How cute is that? Oh, little 4-year-old me. It's taken in 19 long time. How old would that make me? It actually make me 6. Wow, so I was older than I thought. And 6-year-old me, so innocent. Life was easy then. The shops weren't open on a Sunday. That's how long ago it was. There were no mobile phones. Kids' TV finished at 6 o'clock. And the TV used to turn off at a certain point at night. Not that I'd ever be up that late to know that, but the TV used to turn off. And life stopped in certain spheres. There's no social media, no email. Things were done by snail mail. And I remember in our house, we didn't even have a answer machine for ages. So it was just like if you were in and you got the call, that was that. And if you were out, you missed it and life continued. People used to work a 9 to 5 and finish at 5 o'clock. And I was of a generation where we could play outside. We were encouraged to be outside. When we finished school, we used to go and play outside and then come in, occupy ourselves with stuff, not, not watching the TV, on the computer, video games. The first computer I had, what was it called? It was a Commodore 64 or something like that. And you just used to play like these really simple games. Anyway, so that was eons and eons and eons ago. And life was really relatively simple, straightforward and easy for me. And yet I still had situations that caused me to feel like I was not understood. I was challenged. Sometimes there were things that made me feel really concerned. And what I remember being described as nervousness. I don't remember ever feeling anxious growing up at those times, but it was nervousness. And it would have been great to have something that could help me be able to deal with challenges in life. Times where I felt I was a little bit out of my depth and maybe I couldn't cope with, or I was overwhelmed by some of the challenges that life put my way. And I was put in the context of how relatively straightforward being young was at that time, to compare it to the situation that my children are in 2019. So I have a 19-year-old and a 14-year-old. And even in those 5 years difference, 5 years of growing up, life has changed quite significantly for the experience of my eldest child versus my youngest child. So my eldest child, her exposure to things online was Club Penguin. So she'd go on there for maybe 10-15 minutes once a week, something like that, and do whatever they did with the Club Penguin, make friends, do stuff. And then that was it. She didn't have a mobile phone till she was about 13. And they had BBM, which admittedly was quite challenging for her and a few of her friends at times, but it was quite straightforward. My 14-year-old, on the other hand, had a mobile phone much younger. So when she started secondary school, she started with a mobile phone. There's Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube. What else? They're not really on Facebook so much. And maybe some stuff I may have missed out. And her exposure to being on the internet is something that's expected of her at school. She was given an iPad as soon as she started year 7 and has been expected to check her iPad on a regular basis in order to make sure that she's on top of her work. Teachers may send out email communications because it's a paper-free environment, which is great on the one hand, but there's a lot of pressure for her and her schoolmates to conform to making sure that they are electronically connected and savvy at all times. So if a teacher doesn't send an email out, say in the evening, and they haven't checked their iPad in the morning before they go to school and they miss that communication, they can and will be penalised for missing that communication. Now, add this into the mix of hormones, trying to discover who you are, trying to forge your own identity in the world. And I see very clearly how the pains of growing up, when added to the wider context of how society has evolved, creates a very, very acute need to have well-being tools. And if I go back to my youngest as well, she was the first year where they changed the SATs and created a new marking system, new schemes of work, all kinds of things. And there was absolute unparalleled pressure from lots of different factions, the school, classmates, other parents, to perform and do really well in these tests, on top of the pressure that they were feeling, or she was feeling individually, to be able to do her best. Now, this isn't just specific to teenage and older children or young people. It's something that more and more is evident in children of ever increasing younger ages, that life is presenting them with levels of pressure that most of us as parents have not had to deal with until we became adults, because we grew up in a very different environment. So understanding that this is the way that our children are now having their youth and now having the most carefree part of their lives in this hothouse of pressure, comparison, expectation, continual, relentless exposure to a whole world beyond that they are immediately physically involved in, leads us to understand why there are statistics which continually prove that the younger generations coming up are experiencing more and more mental health related issues. Things like anxiety, stress related conditions, which just weren't something on our radar as parents when we were growing up. So when we take this into consideration and understand that maybe when we hear our children talking about certain things or the pressure that they may feel, it's easy for us to dismiss just how acutely they may be feeling in school life, when dealing with their friends, when deciding kind of what clothes to wear, how they want to present an image, or determining who they are in the world, because we just did not grow up in that way. So understanding this and seeing that actually the school system is great. We are one of the luckiest countries in the world because of the levels of education that we have available to us. But it's focused on achievement, attainment, performance in an academically encompassed way. And there is not much consideration, and I say not much because there are some schools who are more progressive and forward thinking and open to including well-being on the curriculum, because they see how it affects positively not only the performance but the behavior and the emotional balance of the children. So understanding that giving our children these tools and supporting them in this way can be one of the most profound and life-enhancing tools that we can give our young people, our children, our young people. Because a lot of us may not have actually come across these tools or use their benefit directly, but maybe if we can see how they positively impact on our children, this is something we can do together. And this is something that we can learn to incorporate into our lives too. So by giving them the gift of breath, we are showing them ways to get in touch with how they feel so that they can understand a lot of the emotion that they may be going through. We can give them the opportunity to, as well as understand that emotion, find a way to be able to express that in a safe way, in a way that empowers their connection with us and with their peers. We're also giving them a really fantastic natural way to increase energy levels and boost their ability to perform on a physical level. So it removes some of the feelings of tiredness, foggy brain, not being able to focus and concentrate. We're also equipping them with the potential to stay well, fuel their bodies in a way that they're designed to be used. We're also giving them a way to understand how to manage difficult and challenging feelings, which is super important when we're in a situation where we're hothoused and we feel overwhelmed and we have to perform in exams and we have to perform in a society that is constantly comparing. And this also gives them an opportunity to decide how much of the comparison they want to take on. And that's a really empowering thing. Showing your children that they can decide which beat of the drum that they're walking to. Is it going to be determined by everybody outside and the pressures that they see and the things that are all around them? Or will they make a decision to actually do what feels good to them? So I have a series of Introduction to Transformational Breath workshops coming up for kids and young people on the 3rd of February. And I also have some other dates which incorporate other well-being techniques or methods that are really, really helpful for children and young people to learn young. Because the younger we learn them, the easier it is to take on, and then it just becomes a normal part of life. 31st of March, I've got an exam toolkit stress buster or stress buster toolkit. Don't know which way round it goes, but it's for those who are coming into exam season. Gives them plenty of time to practice these techniques, practice these methods, so that they get really ingrained, or that's maybe not a nice word, but something that becomes really a habit that they pick up. So by the time time rolls around, they'll have had all this time of calm introduction to and interaction with these skills, and exams will be a breeze.